All right, I'm going to go ahead and start over. We're going to call the meeting in order at 7:02 with a quorum present. For those of you who are not physically here, we have Chris, Matthew, my bad. Man, we're getting your names all kinds of wrong, Matthew. We had the wrong last name, the wrong first name. Wow. Matthew, Cindy, Barbara, myself is Sarah, and Garrick. And then we have Katrina and James and David and a guest. Hello, guest.
It's Chris Polidor. He's with Beltiff and Associates, here to help me out with the park board presentation.
Okay. And Erica is on. Oh, there's Erica online. Now remind me, if you're online, you can participate in the conversation but not vote? Or can she still vote? But I mean, I'm asking, do I ask her for her vote? Because she's, okay. All right. So we are going to administer the statement of officer and oath to place 1, 3, and 7. Do we have those? Barbara, Matthew, and Erica. Erica, are you able to unmute so we can hear you repeat back?
I'm here.
All right, this one includes you.
Okay. The statement of appointed officer. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, promised to pay, contributed, or promised to contribute any money or thing of value, or promised any public office or employment as a reward to secure my appointment or confirmation thereof, so help me God. And then if each of you could just affirm that you...
This is Barbara. I agree.
Erica, are you able to unmute so we can hear you repeat back?
This is Erica. I agree.
Thank you.
I'm here.
This is Matt.
All right,
I
this one
agree.
includes you.
Thank you. Okay, and the oath of office says, I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of board member of the Haslett Parks and Recreation Board for the city of Haslett, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state, so help me God. And again, if each of you will just...
This is Barbara. I will.
Thank you.
This is Matt. I will.
Thank you. And Erica, please.
This is Erica. I will.
Thank you.
Okay. So the next thing we have is the election of officers for chairman and vice chairman. Would anyone like to make a recommendation?
This is Cindy. I'd like to ask Sarah to remain as chairman of the park board.
I second. Oh. I don't know.
I think that's a nomination. Are there any other nominations? How's that? Okay. And then do we have any nominations for vice chairman? Or anyone who would like to also volunteer? I mean, I'll nominate.
I don't mind. I will.
I'd like to nominate Barbara.
Can we also nominate Cindy?
If Cindy wants to do it, I can withdraw.
Okay. Okay, well,
I'd like to make a motion that Sarah be our chairman of the park board and that Barbara be vice chair.
I'll second that.
all in favor? Anyone opposed? Just a quick little review there of virtual best practices that most of us are here in person.
I'd like to make a motion that Sarah be our chairman of the park board and that Barbara be vice chair.
I'll second that.
I guess just in case we needed to hear it for a second time. Hey, it's great. You can get the playback over here. Kind of an interesting playback. We did. Holiday closures for all city offices will be November 25 through 26, December 24 and 27, as well as December 31. And then we have our meeting minutes from last 2 months ago from September.
This is Barbara. I move that we accept the minutes as written.
This is Cindy. I second.
All in favor? All right, motion passes. Accepting the minutes. Same with the financial statement. We will review that. Katrina, you want to highlight if anything changed? I have a question about the budget. You may not know the answer to this, but on the Parks Improvement Fund, because we used the money from the last year to pay for the park, it looks like we have spent 434% of our budget. Do we not adjust the budget to include that so that it's not 434%? Says that we use 434% of the. Yep. Right.
You only had budgeted 53,000 is what you were going to take in. You took in $217,000 from that. It's a good
I
thing.
see.
You're
Okay.
taking in a lot more for all those houses being built out there.
Got it.
All those park fees coming in are much higher.
I see. Revenue line. Got it.
Yes.
I was thinking that was from the parks.
No, you only, as far as expenditures, you only did 68%.
Got it.
So yeah, your income is way up.
And is that because we haven't expended the money yet for the tennis court project that we proposed?
Yes, that's part of it.
Okay.
Yes, some of that, but it's mainly more because we just had so many more houses than anybody had really anticipated for the year. Yeah,
No,
that's,
no, I was asking below the 68% is because we haven't paid for the Parks Board part of the tennis court project. Is that the reason that's low?
mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just got a question. From year to year, does it automatically just roll over, or does some of it get reallocated elsewhere? So like the ending resources at 284 in the City Parks Improvement Fund 15, will that roll over into next year, or does there
Yeah,
whole
the
new budget
improvement
process?
fund, yes,
Okay.
it always, that money until it's all spent away, it keeps rolling over.
So I think what you're asking, so on the budget lines, like if we budget 40,000 for Wild West Fest and we don't use it, we don't keep it. Because it's from
Yeah,
the main.
on your
fund.
other part of your budget, that's the
In
way it
04.
works.
The
Correct.
Part-
in
okay,
04.
I'm
Yeah, and
with you
your
there.
I'm
04
with you there.
funds,
But in
Yeah,
1.5,
that's the way
it's
your
rolling.
04
Okay,
fund
that's-
works.
okay.
Your 04, you have so much money, if you don't spend it, it rolls around, it starts over as your beginning balance of the following year.
5.5 is also rolling.
But 15 is that money, if you do not spend the money out of it, it just keeps building up every year. That money just keeps growing.
Okay, do we like the financial statement?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the financial reports as presented.
This is Barbara. I'll second it.
All in favor? Motion passes. All right, moving into number 8, we have a parks presentation for park improvement. It came up on my screen.
So, this is what we're bringing. We've been working on these plans. These are all the concepts, the basic scaling out of where things could be. We wanted to bring this to show and see what y'all thought about. This was our idea when we started looking at where Travis had laid out the tennis courts before. We were having to move a lot of sidewalk, move a lot of disc golf tees, and baskets and things around to make it fit. So we started looking at options, and we started also looking at the grade as far as the land there. And this spot over here is almost flat, so the grading work will be less expensive. And it lays out to give room in the future. If we ever wanted to add more courts to the north, we still could with no problem, and even could possibly add, we'd have to shorten hole 4, but we could add another, maybe pickleball courts. Couldn't be full tennis courts at that point. There wouldn't be quite enough room, but could do some more to the south. So we thought that might, if y'all like this idea, that's kind of where we would go as far as moving forward with the actual plan designed for grading and all to make that work. With doing that, one of the things that we talked about doing was adding a ad alternate bid, because since so much of this work's concrete, we think we can bid that all as one big project, which will get us probably better pricing, especially with concrete being so hard right now to get a hold of. Usually, you're doing small, short stuff, it's getting extremely hard to get concrete. So we were trying to do the upper trail crossing, since that's a big concrete. A lot of concrete goes into that job. Tennis courts is a lot of concrete. All the pads for all of the seating that we want to do over in Gamble Park, it's all got a lot of concrete involved. So we kind of want to bundle those together. And we thought, well, we'd add a bid alternate. That sand is the biggest problem with the existing volleyball court, to pave it. Go in there and make it a hard surface, put that, put the concrete down, then put the, as they call it, the asphalt mix, rubberized stuff over the top of it, so it can be played on. We get rid of the sand, but we also have another place that could also be, by lowering the net, you could have another pickleball court would fit over there. So there's a lot of, you could use it for more things that way. It'd be a hard surface that could be used.
What would be the dimensions of that new volleyball court surface?
It would still be the same as what's out there, which is 70 by 40, if I remember right. So it would be big enough that you could easily have, you know, a pickleball court. One, couldn't get two on it. It couldn't turn them sideways. Wouldn't quite be long enough, but you could almost. But you could get one on there as an extra one if you, especially if we ever had something where we someday get into tournaments or something, you could have a warm-up court over there and forward playing over on the big courts. So there's a lot of options that could be done with it. So we thought, we're doing concrete, let's put an ad alternate in there and see what we get.
Is it possible they could extend the width so that two courts?
The biggest problem is because the way that thing, that edge around that thing is like, what, 3 feet deep in the ground. So to go anything beyond it gets harder to do. Staying inside of it's easy. It works as its own form. Going beyond it, you're going to have a little small piece that would be a tack on without doing demo.
Okay, would it be possible to, at the edge, instead of it being a lifted edge, I'm just seeing how it could work for other sports. The problem with the basketball court now is that if you run back, it's easy because it's a drop off. So would it be possible to put like that curbing like they do on our streets so that it kind of, do the edge to where it is, but then do some
sort of down slope, possibly?
Slope so that
possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something we could look at during, as I say, when we start doing all the drawing and actually getting into the actual planning, we can look at that.
That just might extend that as a possibility for pickleball as well.
David, can I go back just a second?
Sure.
So initially, when we asked for the multipurpose court to be there, what was the reason that we were told it had to be the tennis court? Because that's what we anticipated. Remember when we voted in motion?
They originally thought they would fit it in that it would make one court barely within that one. But then when everybody decided to go to two courts, everything, you really started moving farther and farther away from that working as the place for it anyway.
And
But
so
originally
when we
it was
initially
just-
asked that question, because of the fact that we wanted the multipurpose court, that's what we had envisioned and asked for. Then we were told, well, that tennis court being on the other side of the path interferes with the soccer field.
We measured it all out, and it does not.
Okay.
We will have to move one goal a little bit to the west, but other than that, doesn't affect a single thing. It'll still be full size as it is today.
My other
go ahead.
My other question is that somewhere along the line with Travis, I think because he had a learning curve with tennis court, he started referring to them as tennis court. But the plan has always been that it would be tennis courts with lines painted, not nets, but lines painted for pickleball. So is that still in there?
Oh, yeah. No,
So
that
it's still
hasn't, none of
tennis
that's
court
changed.
multi-purpose.
For mine, I mean, that's what I've always
Okay.
known it was going to be.
Just
Whatever
wanted
we
to
do, that's
confirm
what
that.
we're building.
I actually had a call from one of the board members asking me that question, and I told them that I felt certain that the Parks Board intention
No, yeah, it
was
gets
for it
those
to be
same
both.
ghosted lines in there that they use for making it into a multi-use court.
Okay, thank you.
So, two different questions. The football field, soccer field, what's the distance between the sideline and what I assume would be a fence? Is that correct? Right. So what I'm would be concerned about is, momentum running out of bounds and smack 3 feet later into a fence. Is that?
I don't think we didn't put the measurements on here. Because we have some room to move it around, and that's one of the reasons we were, if this is a location you're like, what we'd already looked at is if you look at that whole disc golf coming down that side is moving it over more against the outer fence so that the field actually would line up a little better. Long term, it would slightly move to the west. So there would be an actual even gap between sidewalk on one side and the court on the other side.
Yeah, obviously, you fall on sidewalk, that's one thing. You smash into a corner of the court, that's a little worse.
Oh, yeah.
So, I don't know what the distance is. I don't even know what the kind of buffer should be. That was the first thing that kind of jumped in my mind. The second question I have, if we did the alternate bid, take what's in the sand volleyball court, you said concrete and then something on top?
They call it, it's an asphaltic mix, they call it. But it's a little more forgiving than concrete. That's why they put it on tennis courts and all. It's just very thin. But it's got enough give that it doesn't, you're not going to fall on it and peel all your hide off every time you fall down. It's got a little bit more give to it the way it's designed. It's got a mixture of asphalt, rock, very fine, with rubber materials in it, stuff, so that it has some give to it.
I guess, so that sounds good for volleyball, but can you do pickleball on that? I mean, doesn't it affect
it's the same exact surface that you put on a tennis court.
All
and tennis court and pickleball courts all use the same surface.
Yeah.
All right, I just have a question about, I noticed that on here, when I was looking at it the other day, that it says existing football. That's really soccer, isn't it? So could that chart?
It can be used, no, it is designed, that's why it has the upright goals that it has. You can actually use it as football. It's sized enough to do football or that. Pee-wee,
Okay.
not talking large kids, but pee-wee style football.
Okay. I've only ever seen it used for soccer, so that's why I asked that question.
We actually for a while had a couple of small pee-wee teams that were using it on a regular basis. It was probably 3 years ago now.
So do we have other football fields at anywhere?
No,
I just wondered.
that was the only place we ever had anybody use it that way. All right. And of course we have pictures in there depicting kind of how we think of the benches with the sloped metal roofs over the top of them to provide the shade over around, and all of those will have, ADA sidewalks up to them. Also leaving out, since keeping with that ADA theme, there will be a 4-foot spot left at the end of each bench so that if there is someone actually in a wheelchair, could sit there with them also. So we keep in that same vein. And your next project, that's to do with adding the electric power around that inner circled area up there. Back one. Yeah, that one right there. That's adding power all the way around that and up to the basketball court with three lines going over there also. Well, that's what we kind of know. That whole entire thing around the entire basketball court, all of that would have power plugs all the way around it.
Christmas in the park will be much
well, that's
easier.
Since that's our anticipation, is as we're moving more and more of the event that way, that will get us in that frame of being able to do that up there. So that's the main reason for doing that portion, as well as you can see, the little basketball goal thing is arranging taking the ones that are out there now out and placing them into basically a pit that we can actually unbolt, take them out, and close the lid over them. So during Christmas, you don't have to have a basketball goal sitting over the top of the kids. That's gone. It's one just single flat surface, so that we don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. So in events, they can come down. Then after the events are over, we can go back and we'll put them back up. But that will give us that big open, flat floor that we can use without people having things hanging over their head all the time. We're excited about trying to get that one accomplished. And on the next sheet is of course, the upper trail, which we're gonna do, pretty much try to make it match in to the existing new one down at the one on the east end of the setup, but we want to do basically the same up here. This one will be a little bit, won't be as high as that one is because that creek's a little bit wider and a little bit slower right there, but it's going to be fairly similar in look. And we depict the future. I don't know if anybody else can see that little bitty dotted line down there past that. That is where your future La Terra subdivision trail will someday come in, whenever there's an easement across all that pasture land in between the two. That's where it's supposed to come in and tie into our park.
My question about this is, with changes coming with tech dot for 156, and we don't really know what that's going to be since have some protests going on about that. Will the lighting along that anywhere near 156 be placed so that it won't be disturbed by that project?
The electric project, if you'll look, that one there, that's one of the things that will probably be, then that's part of, once we decide, that's why we have some of these things in here, and that's kind of what Chris is here. Chris is a guru about all the electrical lighting and all the cool things you can do with lights along trail. But yes, along the 156 area, we will not even be putting any in. We will take them to the existing bridge, jump to the other side, up the road part way, but once we get part way up the road, we have to stop and no more until we jump over to Schoolhouse. So there'll be a couple of areas till the construction for the road projects is all done. We'll not have any lights till those are done.
Well, are there any street lights along there that will help some in the meantime?
Not too many. There's a couple, at the intersection there at 156 and Avondale there are. And then you get over on Schoolhouse, there are a couple right there. But in between, no, there's nothing. Out there by the gas yard and stuff, there's nothing over there. And then, like I say, Chris has some ideas about the lighting project. See, because we kind of want to see which way y'all want to go. We're talking ballards. We want to go raised lights, solar, powered, all the different possible options that we have. I don't know what all you brought, but I know you have some major ideas.
I can explain a few things. Chris Polidor, work for Belichick and Associates. I actually went out last night and did a survey of the walkway. Unfortunately, there was a baseball game going on, so it was brightly lit. But I did look at sections. There are street lights on the west side of Schoolhouse Road, actually quite far back. There is some residual light on that part of the sidewalks, but not enough to make it, which would call illuminated. And of course, there's the dark section that's up north. There's basically, you're in a candy store now. You get your selection of all these different types of options, especially with LED lights. The sky's the limit. But before we move on to defining the concept, we got to understand, are you looking to completely illuminate the sidewalk and walkways, or do you prefer pool lighting, which is, if you look on the exhibit, if you go to the next slide, if you see that one kind of in the middle, you can see there's pools of light, and then there's darker areas, and there's another pool of light. It's not really dark in between. You can still see, it just appears that way from photographs. And then if you look down in the left one, and the lower, I guess, semi-lower left, that would be a full illumination. And both using bollards plus pole lights, it's a significant difference, because if you're going to go with a full illumination, you're talking for bollards probably close to 200 lights. And the poles are 50 to 75 feet distance, bollard lights. Depending on the type, they're 30, 40 feet separate at the most. And so there's advantages of going with pole lights, which there's a variety of those too, LED fixtures, there's tons of different tops you can put on pole lights. So we have to get this concept defined before we can move on with what kind of lighting do we want to look at. Then we can look at the characteristics, like if you want to go with a vintage type bollard light or a pole light, if you wanted to do that. But there's a significant difference between going with a full illumination versus a pool illumination. And I don't know if you guys are planning on making that decision tonight. You can think about it and maybe put it on the agenda for your next meeting, or.
And has any of this been presented to city council?
No.
Okay. All right.
Y'all's ideas, that way we can start working on, start drilling down closer.
I have a question. So, like, is this one thing?
No.
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 Okay, like this one, it looks like the light, whatever inside is somewhat protected. About this, what is that material that's there?
It's usually a glass or plastic.
So
Right.
either one.
Yeah, there's,
There's
believe
not
me,
as sturdy as
yeah, believe me, there's thousands of different styles. Yes. And obviously, the one down in the bottom one would be more kind of what you would want in the public. If you were in a, if it was your private property, you could use one of the other ones, but yeah, that's another thing we have to consider, if it's a public area, so there's gonna be people there, you're gonna have lawn mowing, you're gonna have, children running up and down. And that also is a decision for the pole lights versus the bollard lights, so, because pole lights are out of reach, so to speak. And a lot of HOAs have those bollard lights for their walkways, and they're easy to, for younger people to access them and stuff, so.
Can I just ask kind of a simple question,
Go
try to
ahead.
frame it up? So the two decisions, right? Pole or the bollard lights, and the second decision is full illumination or pool lighting.
Correct.
Is that this is what
Yes.
we're
Yeah, those
so-
are the first two decisions, which will, cover.
So none of these are pole.
No, none of those are pole.
Those are all.
Yeah, a sample of a pole light would be, there's some vintage ones over in the old part of Haslet.
just
that
a
was-
literal pole, like eight whatever feet
Well,
up in
you
the air.
can, if it's just for the walkway, you can have, 8, 10-foot poles. Or if you want to start illuminating the street, then you just go up a little higher and put a higher wattage bulb in.
So well, I'm going to ask everyone here, do we want to discuss full illumination versus pool? Is that right, pool lighting?
Yeah.
And talk about pros and cons of one versus the other, and see if we can't maybe kind of start working towards that decision. Then we can talk pole or bollard lighting.
I think
Well, it
pool
seems
lighting
like-
for the pathway would be
Yeah,
fine,
pole.
Yeah.
sufficient. No,
Pole.
pool lighting. I think pole lighting, but
I have a
I think
question.
pole too.
So I will admittedly be the one that's not in favor of lighting that road over there that I don't see very many people using. What's the function of the light would be my question for those that have voted in favor of it. Just as a bystander, because I'm not, the gung-ho, hey, I want to see this lighted. Seriously, what are you hoping to gain? Like if you're going to be out there walking in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night where there are no houses and there's a lot of empty field and you can't see what's coming from either side, because that's my biggest problem with walking just at the park. Once you get to the back, if my husband's not here, I'm not walking in that park.
I
And
think
there's tons of people that use that park in the circle. So my question would be, how far do we want to light it so that people would feel comfortable to walk on the road?
I see what you're saying, because most of that pathway is more likely to be used during the day. So it's probably not as important to have it fully lit as it is up in the park area.
I don't think you're ever going to light up the park enough where you feel safe at night.
Right.
And because of that fact, I think you go to pool lighting, which if you do feel comfortable walking at night, you can at least see. That's where my head would be at.
I mean, you
Just
you
for
can,
comparison,
the-
there's are you familiar with this area?
Yes.
So in Watauga, there is a lighted path trail. And I walk there and I run there by myself at night all the time because it has these similar pole lights. Are they called pole lights? What are these called?
bollard,
Polar lights?
BOLLARD, bollard, kind of like a bollard. Yeah.
Those lights. And they work very well. And when they light up that trail, I mean, like I said, I've gone by myself. My husband has literally left Hazlitt to go to Watauga to run at that park at night because it's night and we don't have anything lit like that. So I think these are great lights. But the question is, do we want to spend that money to put it on that road over there that doesn't even have a school on it?
I mean, as far as going,
I feel like these are more expensive.
yeah,
Am I
as
wrong?
far as going with pole versus bowler, the real question is, do you want to fully illuminate or pool? And then when we would look at it, we'll kind of spec out both types of lights so you can see, because you got to see the difference between construction, lights that are going to be 50, 75 feet apart versus ones that are going to be 20 feet, 30 feet apart, if you're going to do full illumination.
One thing I'd say, Sarah, is Schoolhouse Road, that pathway is being utilized quite a bit. There are people that are using it, and I've noticed it being used more. I know there's no school over there anymore, but they're still either coming from the park or going to the park. I don't know where they're going or coming from, but I see a lot of people using it. Just on expense side of it, I think that the pole lighting is probably going to be the direction we'll probably
Pole or pool?
Pole.
I would
Okay,
like to
but
see it
pool-
match the pole like we have in the park, even if they're not spaced as closely together, because maybe we don't need it as fully lit on the section of 156, but it would still be good to have that continuity, to have them, that continuity.
Right,
you know,
that's
throughout
when
from
we get into
for
all
the
the
whole
design
trail,
and the way
right.
it looks. Because I went out to the other park there, and yeah, it's fully illuminated.
But
There's a couple dark spots, but it's fully illuminated.
But I think it's still a decision around pool or
Right.
fully illuminated.
Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah.
There's 3,500 feet it has to be lit. So,
Is there a rough cost difference on?
well, you can spend all types of money. Usually a bollard light, that's one that's good for commercial use. You're talking 200 to 400. They have some going up to 1,000, depending on how fancy you want to get. And a pole light is typically 3,000 or around there, 3-4, including installation.
How much
So
were the poles that we have in the park?
I don't know about that.
Okay.
I have another question, David. Over there, where you're saying we're not going to light because they're going to bring that road through, because that road is coming before 156 gets widened. It's already coming. How does the park connect to the others? Like, how are we going to connect? And they're going to light their highway because it's a wider road, right?
Now, could I mention that years back when the, I don't know if you call them vintage light, but the gooseneck lights that are in the old, those are fixed fee from Encore, and Encore has specifications for those kind of lights too, where they maintain them. The city pays and has them installed, and from that point on, they maintain them and change the bulbs and whatnot, and you pay a fixed fee. I, didn't contact Encore, see if they still offer that or not, but you could run technically that kind of lighting down the side.
This is Cindy. I do know that there's been some discussion about not having quite enough light right now in the park. So I just think that we should, in our project, add a few lights over there but maintain that information when we're lighting the rest of it too. You don't want those pools to be so far apart that you're actually in darkness going from one to another. So if you could overlap them, you know, somewhat.
Yeah, the pictures are kind of misleading, but yeah, design-wise, it's something I want to get in favor of, having completely darkness in between, which some municipalities do.
I've seen it at this.
Well, that's how these work.
Right.
They are scattered, get the most coverage or around the face, but not so much coverage.
Yeah.
At that point, during that time, we had people in other parts of town who thought that cover line there.
Yeah.
Then we got them, and then everybody like, we didn't get the kind down.
Well, and the other, I'm sure that these are much less expensive, the bollard ones, but like Barbara was saying, the one on the bottom is the only one to me that looks like it could be less vandalized. Because, you know, some kid going down there with a stick could tear up stuff or pour sand in all of them.
So we're just, you want us to decide pool or
Here's
pool.
examples of other kinds that I just printed off. There's all types. There's square ones, there's ones that are gooseneck, there's ones that are completely solid all the way up to the top. There's ones that are an open rectangle where there's lights inside, which then spills out onto the sidewalk. There's unlimited numbers of different styles, and probably we can define a few of them, and then you can select the final.
But either one would be full or pool.
Full or pool.
So we're basically choosing, do we want full or pool? What did you say, Garrett? Pool. So Garrett said pool. My question is, if we have it pool instead of pool, are people going to still use it during the nighttime? That's the question.
Right, Chris? Yes.
I think if Chris understands that we want pool, but we don't want to go from light to dark or to light, we want our pool to go from bright to dim to bright.
Right.
Then I think
Yes, and some of
would
these,
work.
you know, that are circular actually light the opposite side too. So if you're going down in the dark section there, you're not only lighting the sidewalk, you're lighting beyond it too. It's circular. You can have a circular pattern, you can have a strictly rectangular pattern, and most of the time they're circular patterns so they can see out of the edge of the sidewalk.
And as a light ignorant person, there's different levels of pooling.
Well, there's different light intensities. The maximum you can probably get is a 16-foot circle because they're low. If they're up higher, that's when you go to the pole light, you can get a 20-foot, 25-foot circle.
All right, my question is, aren't there some areas that should have more dense pool lighting than others? You know, if, for example, if I'm walking under that bridge, that roadway, if it's not fully lit,
Right.
I'm not going.
I haven't looked at that, but probably in a case like that, usually you put a light at the entrance, a light at the exit. In fact, like a bridge, you'd probably put one on each side and one on each side on the exit, so it's fully illuminated. Usually at the beginning of a trail, that's what you do. You should designate one on each end, on each side, and then that's the entranceway, and then you have your lighting.
I think if we do pool lighting, if you don't feel safe at night, the pool lighting isn't gonna put you over the. So I think if you really want to feel safe at night, you gotta just light the whole thing, light it up the whole way. With that being said, I still think pool would be the way to go.
I
'Cause
think
even if you do light the whole thing
pool.
up, I still think people are gonna be like, yeah, there's still a lot of open areas out there.
I mean, we haven't got to the aesthetics yet, but, there is an aesthetic thing if you see a completely lit walkway versus one, pattern. It's architecturally, it's
Pool light.
More beautiful. Yeah. Mhm. Right, right.
That's what they thought. They saw it.
Has anybody complained in the neighborhood that the houses that are nearby about the lights on the basketball court? Mhm. Okay. Because I'm thinking it would be the same kind of situation. I'm kind of leaving the trail for a moment to go to the tennis courts when, if and when we add lighting there. Yeah. 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 Right. Well, and the park should have a closing time to
Do we-
respect the residences.
Do we feel compelled enough to vote for pool versus pool at this time? Recommendation? So we just give you the recommendation? Okay.
Ideas, yeah. It's gonna be kind of an iterative process, because there's so many ways in what directions to go in.
A lot more aesthetic. Building bridges on concrete.
Can it be a mixture of pole to match, to tie in the park and this other type? Is that, would that,
Yeah, if you're using, like, if you're running all wired, yeah, you can put a overhead light, and then on the opposite side, 20 feet down, put something that fits the same design.
yeah, I think that would make a very pretty
Yeah,
design.
on some of the main roadways in some of the cities, they actually have street lights that are like kind of vintage style. In addition to the street lights, they have 8-foot lights that are over the walkway in between the street lights to fill in the gaps.
No, North Richland Hills does that, what he's describing right now. They do that on North Tarrant Parkway, which is got a heavily traveled trail beside the parkway. And they have the big light for the streets and
Yep.
the smaller light, just like the parkway.
I mean, with the, if you want to lean towards the pooling, we can put together different distances, and probably we can do a photometric thing so you can see an idea of what's going to be lit.
Is there any way we can do a demo of some sort where we can actually go see?
Well, something to give you a semblance. I mean, to go from there, I mean, it's a drastic difference to go with full lighting. You're talking about a lot of fixtures, and even if you go with the pools, you can always add fixtures later too.
Yeah, that's good. With the pool light. Let's come back, man.
Yeah.
All right, I'd like to move that we recommend that we move forward with planning. Well, that we have to see
just
if
a
we
guideline.
agree, though, don't we? Yeah.
It
Does
seems
anyone-
like everyone voted for
okay,
pooling.
then
If
I'm
Does
someone
saying
anyone think
wanted-
pooling.
isn't the way to go?
Pooling.
If
Yeah.
someone objected to pooling, then that would be your time to speak, but it seemed like the consensus was pooling, so we're just gonna roll with pooling.
Okay.
Pooling.
I do have a question, which is kind of premature, but so we can go in the right direction. I know you have solar lights over at the other park, and I don't know how long they've been there. Initially, and I'm not sure, I don't know how they were put in or whatnot, but they haven't really been around a lot to know how the batteries last. Some of the lights over there I do see, I don't know if there's antennas that are hanging from them that have fallen down, and they're hanging, and I thought maybe that was like the remote control, but some of them don't. and they're direct buried, which is another thing, because that's pretty much floodplain. The soil's always moist, and some of them are starting to lean, which is also part of the construction. So we'll try to stay away from direct buried, which means you just drill a hole, stick a pole in. You got to have some concrete around it, especially along that road because it's a drainage ditch, and you'll get runoff from the fields and everything like that. And so we'll go with that kind of concept because they do have direct buried poles, kind of like they have over at the park there. And it's really probably it should go back and straighten them out and then compact the dirt. But once the water comes through there again, they're going to start shifting again. Because I went over there and I looked at a few and I kind of shook the pole and I could see the whole foundation just moving with the soil. So, so we'll go with a foundation like that, and we'll come up with a couple ideas, show you the patterns, and we'll go from there. Because it's 3,500 feet. You know, we're probably talking at least 100, maybe 100 bollard lights at, say if you go the maximum $600 a piece or something, which includes installation. What's that? $60,000.
Well, since you mentioned the bollard lights again, I just want to remind you that I personally am going to be looking for a mixture of bollard lights and lights like we have in the park now that are the pole.
On the pole, yeah. Okay. There will not be? Well, we can look at it. The solar lights, if you go with bollard lights, they're not going to last long on a charge. They don't have a big solar panel. I think 6 hours is the most they last. Most you can get out of them. Yeah, I mean, installation-wise, upfront cost, though it costs less upfront, really, believe it or not. Solar-powered lights, yeah, we're talking hardwired, even if they go with solar-powered or LED lights. Solar-powered are more expensive upfront. Yeah, there's more construction involved because you got to run wire, but also you can control all the lights at the same time. You won't have half the lights off when there's a ball game going, and to be very sensitive to external light, even though they all have electronic eyes, but you can also put them on timers. So solar, while it's great and fun to have, the big thing is LED.
Right. And right.
Yeah, the batteries are the problems with the solar light.
Well, and aren't hardwired lights brighter? Solar lights tend to be.
Well, they'll always be consistent, because if the battery charge isn't 100%, the LEDs are going to be dimmer.
Okay, it
So it
doesn't
may
really
not be
matter.
consistent if there's lights in the shade or there's
Right.
a tree blocking the sunlight.
Right.
And then if we happen to have a week of rain, which I don't know if we'll ever have that,
Right.
Chances are they may never get charged.
Right.
Charged up.
Right.
Okay, any more questions? Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Before you leave, does this mean that we have to wait for council to okay all of this before they start on the tennis court?
No. We're going to go back now. So we have to tell them following the first pick it out, done, plan.
So,
I would just like, again, to say, because I haven't heard from anybody, but I know with Travis, he would kind of send me his presentation and I could look at it and give him some feedback from a tennis player perspective. And so whoever's drawing up these plans now, if they would like for me to do that, I would really enjoy doing that. So please feel free to give them my name and phone number. Okay.
As early as possible in the process, if you guys have drawings and it's allowed to send them out, I'd certainly like to look at it ahead of just, here they are, right in front of us. So the next meeting or at some point, there would be a lot more detailed, I mean, like a construction set that would go out to bid, right? I mean, standard details and all that. Okay.
Well, thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Katrina, can we go back to number 2 for just a quick second on officer reappointment and election stuff? I have a question about one of our board members that has been pulled away to service. And I would like to discuss with the board that we allow him to remain in that position and not vacate because he's serving our country. That's my opinion. And not look to fill that particular slot, if that makes sense. I think, do we need to recommend that to council? Should we just put that on the next agenda then? To discuss, or is that considered part of oathing? I thought it would go under members, and I just forgot to mention it. I guess he's not out of the... Okay. Because Matt moved up. Matt is place 3, right? Yes. That was old. Okay. Okay. So maybe it doesn't make any difference since we don't have anyone to fill in. Yeah. Okay. All right, back to number 9. Egg hunt is scheduled for April 9th, 2022. I don't think we have anything to work on for that. And then Wild West Fest. Are we just going to try for...
to do it.
So,
So where are we? Where are we at? We need,
well, it's in the budget. That's where
okay,
we're
and
at.
we need a contractor. We need, so we'd reach out to Kelly and BLK.
We need a date to get a quote. You can't get a quote without a date.
Sure.
And
Do we know what dates Kelly has available? Because doesn't he usually give us dates and then we kind of,
got $40,000 budget for it.
let's shoot for a date then. So we'll pick a date that we think would be the best.
We still want to do this, right?
I-
Everyone is on board? On the board?
I'm going with the crowd on this one. That's the question.
Because it takes everyone.
Everybody.
Yeah, we need everyone.
And then your friends and your wives and your husbands.
Right.
And your children. And every park board member you can find that's willing to come.
So when was it scheduled? When was it scheduled that we had rain 3 years in a row so we can avoid that date? April. So, and when we moved it to May, we had better. Is that correct? Well, what I wonder is if we might want to, people have, for Memorial Day, they have many more people have a day off, and it's a school holiday as well. So I wonder if we did it around the Memorial Day as our first choice, if that might be a good time. Is that May 30th? So if we did it that weekend,
Would people be traveling and that?
Typically, it's also the end of school, so if they get out like on the 28th, then they're gone.
well, if we have it earlier, they have all their end of the school year events. So, anytime you do it in May, I think that's why we didn't schedule it in May previously. But April, you just can't count on the weather. We lost a lot of money every year.
I feel like we thought about having it in September at one point last year
Mhm.
after it got rained out again.
That is what we were talking about.
Garrett? Garrett, we're taking your lead on this one, buddy.
I don't know on date. Last time we ran into, was it graduation weekend? We thought we had a great weekend, then we realized we were going up against all kinds of stuff. So I think either earlier, as far as weekends go, or September, but yeah. But I think we need to back up, make sure everyone's on board with doing it. Really, the working part of it, to be there, committed to work.
And we also need to decide if we're going to do a 1-day event or a 2-day event.
Yes.
Right.
Well, and that's the thing. If we back it up, we already have Easter. We have our event, and then we also have we have the actual Easter.
I also will mention that we also talked about not doing it at all.
I mean, I'm all for it. I like the event, but I know that we've just struggled with getting the people there to make it happen. We're always thin.
I mean, when it's
Well-
good, it's good, right? I mean, when it goes off and it goes well, it's a great event. It's just
Well, I
getting all
think
the stars to align.
part of that happened, I think, because we kept adding additional events. I mean, maybe it would be my guess. I don't know. I wasn't probably here years ago when this started. But it's like Wild West Fest probably started with a rodeo. And then not have so much of the other stuff. I mean, we did a cook-off, and then we did a car show, and then we have rides, and then we have so much.
Yeah, and a lot of that was done because we were always trying to find another group of people so we would have more people. We were always, we had the chili cook-off. Well, that kind of, even though there's a big following for chili cook-off, but those people really hang to themselves. They don't leave their cook-off. So, although we had a pretty good number of people that did it, but they didn't really impact our event. So then we tried the car show, but that was only 1 year, and it I don't know, did we have 20? I don't remember. We had some cars show up, but I think it would have grown, and then COVID hit, and we didn't have it again. So, but the car show was during the event, so it didn't really create any extra work for us. The chili cook-off was work for a group of people. I mean, it required work. The concert part, which I always thought was great, but it was kind of, I think the first year we had what are they called? La Freak. We had they had a big crowd, and it was great, but the second year I didn't think it drew as much, right? So so I don't know. That's another issue. So
I think it was because we tried the concert on a different night than the rodeo or something like that. Wasn't that?
We did try the concert on a Friday night.
And I think that's when they had less people. Wasn't it the same night when there was a big group? Didn't we have the rodeo during the day and the concert at night? And then that was a bigger.
Yeah, we did.
The first year we had it, everything lined up. The weather was great. It wasn't too hot. It wasn't too cold. And word got out, and it was hot during the day, but it cooled off at night. But then the second year was when it got so cold. And there were several times when it just wasn't fun to be out there. It's too cold. So that's just going to be hit or miss either way.
The carnival people, David, I know we probably haven't talked to him, but his deal is he wants multiple days to show up. He needs multiple days. Which right. But is there a cost to us for him to set up, or was he just willing to? Yeah. But if I remember correctly, our last time we discussed this, we were in agreement to let him set up on a Wednesday or whatever it was, and run it Thursday through the weekend and make his money. Is that not correct?
And could we do, instead of having a carnival, could we do kind of like we do for some of the other events and have the train? I mean, as long as you have something for the kids other than, you know, because a rodeo they're watching. So if you have one thing that the kids can do that's kind of fun. Well, I have no idea how, if we can afford it, I'd say let's pay for it. If we just are going to do one thing and have the train.
So I think, this is my opinion, if we go back to the basics like David is saying and just have the rodeo with whatever vendors, with the rodeo, exactly, because then we're not stressing our life about it. We're not manning gates and gating off stuff and trying to close out for beer like we did that one year, which was fun, but we didn't get any money extra. I don't think it brought in more people because we sold beer than we didn't. And if you want a beer, you'll go to the rodeo and then go home after. Or we can have beer only in the rodeo and only gate off the rodeo part, and you can't take it outside of the rodeo stands. I mean, I'm just saying, when I go to the rodeo in California, there's nothing for my kids to do. I took my kids, they sat there, they watched the rodeo. When I go to the rodeo in Fort Worth, we watch the rodeo. Yeah, there's fairgrounds maybe, but I'm not going for that. I'm going to watch the rodeo. So maybe we just do the rodeo. And then we don't have to worry about all the money we're going to lose if it gets canceled because it's already lumped in.
So are we gonna do the vendor thing and all? I mean, everything we've tried to do in the past, or just?
Well, we want food vendors, food and beverages, but
And are we still allowing the rodeo? Because, you know, the rodeo's been free. If it's free and we don't have to pay for it, then I'll spend money to buy food if I'm going to the rodeo for free. If I'm paying for the rodeo, then I don't know. Do we get to make that say?
Well, it really wasn't free because we were charging to get in, and that was just part of the gate, so to speak, to get in. Yeah.
so do we want to say no to the chili cook-off, no to the
Yes.
concert, and no to the car show for this year? Maybe we'll bring it back in the future. No to the carnival rides, and then maybe later we can talk about doing the train, but we don't have to decide that tonight. Yes to the rodeo, and yes to food vendors. Did I kind of summarize what I think I heard? Erica, I just wonder if there would be any way to have some, I mean, we could have, if the rodeo's during the day, we could have like the vegetable vendors. I don't know if we want to do that or not at the same time, but yeah, okay, vendors with an emphasis on food.
And I think if we do decide to do something for the kids, we could do a petting zoo and the train ride, and that's it. And we don't have to mess with any of that. Right. And I'd like to suggest April the 30th as a possible date. And then see when graduation is, and maybe May 7th. Look at those 2 weekends. I think if we just put some dates out there, then they're going to come back with what they're already booked at. So
And
that would give us something else to work with.
I might even suggest the 23rd or the 30th. If you go to the 1st of May, I just think you're going to get into a lot of school events.
And stay out of May.
And stay, that's my opinion, but I mean,
School
I
ends
I
with-
would support it on the 7th if it ended up being on May 7th.
I think the 30th through the 7th sounds reasonable.
Well, we could even look at the 23rd,
I just may be
30th,
out of
and the
town.
7th. We're only going to do one,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I'll probably be out of town on the 7th. But
Matt, when does school end this year? Do you know?
My kids aren't old enough for that yet. I'm thinking first week of June.
That's probably right.
This is Cindy. I'd like to make a motion that we get rodeo quotes for April 23rd, 30th, and May 7th, just to see where we're at.
I second that.
All in favor? All right, motion approved. We'll get some quotes and we'll just kind of narrow it down after we have the estimates for those dates. School's out May 26th. All right. So basic Wild West Fest, those 3 dates, and we'll see what we come up with. For Memorial Day, we're looking at May the 30th, which is Memorial Day. Hopefully we'll have it in person this time, not online. And then the Fireworks Independence event, July 1, which is a Friday. What is that?
well, I just want to say the show that they did recently, it was, I watched it from home, and because it was high, it was awesome. I only wished I could have heard the patriotic music, That's the only thing that would have made it any better, but it was beautifully done.
I agree. We stay with the same show. Yes.
I even like the location. I mean, I thought we could see it real good from the park. I was standing next to David when it was going off in from the park, and it looked pretty good over there.
I agree. I stayed to watch it from the park too, just to see how it would be.
And so if we have it at the park, then we could have a DJ with playing the music during the show, right? Mm-hmm.
Do we have to look at other bids? So we'll tentatively keep that in on our mind, and if someone sends us another one, or if anybody can get another one just for comparison, that'd be great.
do we need to go ahead and contract them to make sure we get them? Yeah.
All right, so movie in the park dates available for 22 are September 16th, 23rd, or 30th. So just pick one, huh? There's no school calendar.
Do we need to commit? This is Cindy, do we need to commit to a date right tonight?
You wanted to know.
Then I'd like to make a motion that we accept September 16th for a movie in the park.
I'm good with that. Yeah, I'm good
I'll
with that. I'll
second
second
it.
it. All those in favor. All right, no one's opposed. That will pass. We'll keep movie in the park for September 16th of next year. National Night Out doesn't change. It's going to be October 4th of 2022. That's it. And we do have In and Out. Is that why it's in parentheses? Awesome.
My question is, at the movie night, is In and Out free that night also? Cool. So we'll have them less than a month apart. Oh, that's awesome.
And then the Hazlet Hustle 5K Fun Run, lessons learned from this last event. We have a Clarence, bless his heart. Bless old Clarence's heart. Maybe we could do it with the Hazlet Hustle instead of, an extra activity in October. I don't know.
We'd
that I've
hunt
made
eggs
changes.
after the race, right immediately after. Wouldn't that be a little early in the morning? I'm just asking. I like his thought process. We knock out two birds with one stone. But
I think it was real close. To what? There's that.
Well, that's why it's good not to change when we have it, in my opinion, because we are still growing the event. And so if you change it too much, then you lose ground.
How many people showed up? Yeah.
My
wanna keep
opinion
doing
is
it?
we just continue planning for our October and not add another event at this time.
You said to keep it where it is, or to where's it going to be? Because don't we normally do it with the firehouse, haunted house?
Well, I have October. Oh,
That was this last year.
I hope we can do it on the 29th this year, or next year,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, separate
from National Night Out, right?
That's right. But the air show doesn't start till 11, right?
But the traffic, they go out there.
So the air show will be October 22nd and 23rd of next year. So if we did the 29th, then it'd be off of the air show. Is the air show. Yes. So if we did the 29th for the hustle and try to tie it in with anticipation of when the haunted hayride will be and keep that like we did the year before last, then right before Halloween, people are probably here. Maybe it'll be more tended.
We can leave a tentative date for the 29th then.
Okay. And I think Clarence did a fine job. So. And I don't know if it's because we had less people. I thought it was better than the year before.
How did all the snacks and water work? The fruit and water?
Great. I dumped them all in buckets and people. I think we do need to next year anticipate getting a volunteer group to sort of man the trail for direction guidance, because I literally ran from the start to the other side to make sure everyone got the 2 turns. Yeah. But even if we had, you know, like the honor society or something, just stand there and this is the way you go. I mean, it could be simple and have little, you know, I know we pass that water like we used to, but we just need a better map, I guess, available. Because people were like, oh, where's your map? And we were like, yeah, just run. It'll be fun. Literally. I was like,
if you end up in
just run to the end of the trail and come back. And everyone was really easygoing, and they were actually okay with that. I mean, I showed a couple people that, like the real 5Kers, you know, I showed them the trail, and I think they got it. I mean, the guy who came in first, I think he did it last year also, but. Okay, Christmas in the Park is December 4th from 3 to 7. Coming up this December. So, all hands on deck. Perfect. Excellent.
Okay. This is Barbara. I move that I make a motion that we provide funding for $350 to buy hay bales to create a snow slide.
This is Cindy. I second.
All in favor? Everyone agrees, so that passes. $350 for hay bales for our snow slide. At the toilet?
You can pull up Google if you want, just for all I care. That was the part. I don't know if you can see on what she's passing around, because we've had this asked of us a couple of times since the choirs are up on the basketball court, and trying to consolidate a few things is to move the Christmas tree
To the toilet.
to the triangle area right there by the pavilion, the basketball court, the restrooms, that corner right there, set that tree up there. Oh yeah, there's enough room, and we can get power coming off the restroom building and stuff. We got electricity there. And the reason being, then when Santa Claus comes, we can set the place for the camera set up, all that stuff, all up there. The vendors can line the sidewalk. When Santa comes around in the fire truck and unloads, it's all right there. The choir's there, trees there, and his place to go sit in the chair and get the pictures all done would all be in that one little spot. Now, the lighted characters and stuff, we would move to the open area where the bull riding usually has been, since we have power there. We'd put those down there, which we don't know yet how many are going to work. We'll find that out soon. But we'd line those all down there on that walkway.
So last year they kept going out when we lined them along that walkway, and it wasn't as fun as it is when we have it in the other park and they all work.
That had nothing to do with which park they were in. No, that's not the power wasn't the biggest problem. It's the actual decorations themselves are going bad. They're starting to wear out and need some major expensive work probably to some of them. And some of them, the manufacturer has already told us, you're wasting your time. Don't fix them, just buy a new one. That's the only way to do it, according to them. Yeah, and that's one of the things we were talking about, by pulling, since that's where we have to have the choir and everybody, that gets some of it kind of condensed. Plus, the other reason we want to move out of Gamble is because with y'all's new playground, we got a lot more people come in and out of that park every day of the week. It doesn't matter anymore. It is busy pretty much every day. And having all those kids and all those people running around out there over those cords and all the decorations is probably not going to work well. It's not going to hold up unless we figure out a way to fence everything off from everybody.
Well, the only reason I will really miss decorating Gamble Park is because of the trees that we wrap.
The trees can still be wrapped because luckily the trees have power pretty close to them, so they don't have to have the cord strung out. It's the other decorations that took so much.
We don't have the trees over in this part of the park, and that just kind of looks it's so beautiful with all those trees lit. I mean, it's my favorite thing. Even if we didn't have any decorations, the trees there really make it a special place. Maybe a few decorations could be near the trees. I don't know. We can talk about that.
What about the thing, I mean, we could still wrap the trees, and then maybe that thing y'all designed that Dr. Alanis, the wall that goes where the pavilion is, like we could move that there, and then you could walk through the park with the trees and then walk over to the main Christmas tree, and you could still walk from one part to the other along that. I mean, the trail's nice. It's paved really well. I have a question.
Sure.
I don't know, but having the tree by the toilet with the back to the toilet, can we just put it over here?
The problem over there is the ground's not flat enough. That's the big thing. That tree has to have some pretty level ground to be able to set up on.
Like, could we just build a platform? I volunteer. I don't know, I just feel like if the back of it, the reason I like the tree where it was before and where it has been in the year before, you can walk around it. And for me, because I love Christmas, one of the, like you're walking through, it just feels sweet to walk through the park and see the trees lit up. And to be able to walk around the tree is really cool, if you ask me. And so if you put it by the toilet, I'm not going to walk around the tree.
Well, it's not. You still got a lot of room between you and the building. It's not that close. If you look at it. Where the camel was. No electricity. Yeah. Yeah, that's the biggest deal. With anything other than up close to the building, we're getting farther and farther away from anywhere we got any power. Where she's pointing to would be room isn't the problem, it's power. In those areas, there's no electricity anywhere in those areas. It doesn't have plug-ins in there, though. It's just lights. That's one of the reasons it will be done that way. Oh yeah, next year, tree can be over there, right off the end of the basketball court kind of thing. There's a lot of ways we can do over there. Again, the only problem with that is we also have a light off that end of the basketball court that is solar that I can't turn off, which is not conducive to having a Christmas tree sitting there. I think you got to disconnect them the only way that they go off. That's one of the things that we've come to realize, you know, with the solars are nice and it's great enough to have an electric bill to pay every month, but they have their drawback.
Why did you say we can't have it where it was last year?
Last year, it was sitting over there on that same deal where the rodeo is, and
Right.
it could go there. That's fine also. The only thing they had talked about was we had a lot of people talking about how far the distance is of everything being strung out so much. That, oh, yeah, it's way closer than
We didn't have the
before.
event last year is the thing, so.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. But that was the thing, was that because the choirs were up there at the basketball court, you can't, so the choir has to get up and move over to where the tree is to be where Santa's at and all that. That was what the deal was. So the choir could stay placed. It is closer, but they still are going to have to move. Otherwise, you won't be able to hear them. Or you're going to have to put in some really big speakers. Oh, yeah. Oh, oh, yeah, that helps. The only thing that's still would be separated out would be your choir. Because
But I feel like the choir from the basketball court to where the tree was last year is closer than the park.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause that was a far distance. You could not hear them.
You're moving them a lot closer if they're over that way. Will mean we'll have to change.
Like, how close can we get the tree from that walkable
Well, the
area?
problem is I got one right there where that tree line ends, where the parking lot ends, but you don't want it sitting right there where that big trees are. Yep, right dead center.
There's no.
There's a drain there. Last power for that line of trees right here. That's it. That's power. Oh, yeah. Oh, I know. Well, you got, no, you got power, you have to bring power out of the parking building. And that's why I was trying to have it all along sidewalk if possible. built that up. Couple feet off the ground, pad. Yeah, that's put it right in the dead center and into that thing. No. Next year. Now I can measure it, I think I can. But be closer to the road, so if you're just driving by, you get closer right on the road. Measure that out. Keep it close to this. Oh yeah, we can do that. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This is it. Yeah, that's why I like this spot. Because that one, if you're driving down, you're looking right. Over there, no. Middle here. Yeah, and that's easy to power.
Hello?
You're not going to do anything like during the week prior to
Yeah.
that weekend?
I thought we usually do it during the week. We're doing it the weekend? David? You guys are coming in on Saturday and Sunday? What days would you like us to help you, or you help us get those lights out?
Like you earlier, y'all talked about.
Okay.
You have a lot of, so, not really.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, we're almost there. That's why we got starting this.
If you can have lights over there, I can work the 17th and the 18th and possibly the 19th. Not all day long, but 3 or 4 hours each day. If anybody else wants to start on the 17th. Pardon me?
I'm working.
Okay.
I'm not a big, I was looking at that too.
But I can start wrapping trees if the lights are working.
I will mention that it's warmer and there is that right now it looks like cloud.
So Cindy can come on the 18th, 17th, Cindy? And I can try, but I'm tight until the 19th.
In the morning.
I have to take Abigail in the morning.
Okay, then let's start.
16th? You guys want to say the 16th instead? When you can be wrapping lights, Garrett?
We need some small people.
What day can you wrap up the tree? We'll name it after you. You wrap that tree, we'll put a sign that says wrap.
Okay, here are the Christmas events that we have confirmed. Emergency Ice is bringing the snow, and we are creating our own snow slide with the hay you guys just approved.
And can I confirm that, David, you're going to help us build that slide up? Okay.
The hay will be delivered on the 2nd, so it could be formed up and then, ready for the. We have Texas Entertainment Group providing the life-size snow globe. Then 2 live reindeer on a lead with a sleigh from 5 to 7 only at the event. Will we need lighting for that day? Like rented light? We probably need to do that. Santa, we have from 5 o'clock to 7:30, so he arrives at the fire station at 5 and gets delivered to the park on the fire truck. Just be here. Last year he was here, or last year, the year before, like 5:20ish, but we are planning for 5:30, so gives us a few minutes.
We need to ask about the backdrop. Have we asked if we're going to be helping?
If we're going to be helping, Mike is going to build the backdrop.
Right. I mean, he's agreed to that. I just want to make sure we've asked him.
Yes.
Have we asked Mike?
Yes.
Okay.
We have the DJ Alex will be here with the sound equipment. And then we have the 2 face painting people from TNT Entertainment. We have the kids train ride that you guys voted for, Sky Pirates Inflatables. And then we have okay, that's about all on that. And then on the list, we still have light tower rental and any other equipment such as folding chairs for the stage area and t-shirts. And we are not doing cookies, right? And that's it. The library is going to offer crafts inside the library during the event as usual.
Well, this sounds amazing because I've been the volunteer coordinator before, and it looks like not a single thing needs to be volunteered.
Except
maybe
for
the snow.
Snow slide. Oh, and we should have those snow discs. You know what those are? The plastic discs. We're buying some of those. Someone's supposed to purchase them for us in Colorado and have them here for the event. Yes, those to use on the. So we probably will need volunteers at that area, right? Grace Point Church is one of our sponsors, so you guys can see on the flyer, and she can offer up a few volunteers. She provided us some before, and there were only maybe 2, maybe 3 kids because it's a very small school they have, but she did offer to get volunteers if we wanted. She can get more volunteers, but they'll be younger, so, yeah, like elementary age. I know, so, and she knows, so.
I'll email that Honor Society group if I can find that, or maybe Tanya.
Yeah, she does.
Even if we just had 2 high school students to run that, and we only need 8 people. Someone can come at 3, someone can come at 4, someone can come at 5, and someone can come at 6. And just have 2 people for an hour each. And it's not overwhelming. They can just help the kids with the play. There's no big lifting. I think that sounds good.
And we are not having a separate area for the little ones this year?
We did ask for that extra ice.
That was like last January that we threw that out, but I have it in.
I think we did vote to keep the separate play area because the littler kids really enjoyed that a lot.
Remember, David, the guy came in person so y'all could look at the spot.
But the separate area is near the snow area, isn't it?
Okay, so here's what we have. Play area 1 is 45 feet by 25 feet. Play area 2 is 30 feet by 24 feet. And then a natural hill size, 25 feet by 6 feet wide.
We need to get a few more hay bales to mark off those other areas.
Well, that's 50 hay bales, I think. David thinks that's,
To build it up and then mark it off. Yes.
We really just put the hay bale
That string.
road.
but now your hay bales are gonna be your act.
No, but we still want to delineate the area for the
Yes.
play field.
Yes, okay,
So we
yes.
still need at least 4 of those hay bales on each, one on each corner. And then, like Barbara said, we just had like a rope. I think David stuck a stick in the hay bale and then
I think
roped it.
4.
But we still think that's enough, David, okay? If it's only 6 feet wide.
You're gonna need at least 10 hay bales. Rope off each. And then we need to motion for light for the reindeer pole light.
Last time. Says on. $160 each, and we had 3. 485. Are they more now? Just 2 years. That's what. They're all out there on 35 right now, being used.
All right, this is Cindy. I'd like to make a motion that we allow $500 for lighting for Christmas in the park.
I second Barbara.
All in favor? That is everyone. So we will look, see if we can get some light. And then what about, do we need any porta potties, David? Christmas? Okay.
You mentioned folding chairs. Do we need to vote on that?
We already have a riser, David, for the singers. Do we need a riser, or do they just stand out there? Oh, okay. Flat.
All right, this is Barbara. I move that we approve up to $300 for chair rental.
This is Cindy. I second the motion.
All in favor? All right, everyone approves? I think we had gray one year also. We had gray the year before last. I liked the gray a lot. I like that red though too. My choice would be white or red, I think. What about you, Garrett?
I move that we approve $2,000 to order red T-shirts for Christmas in the park.
Second.
Seconded by Garrick. All in favor? That is everyone. That will move as well. And you can just order, I guess, whatever sizes we ordered last year. Anything else for Christmas in the park? Good. Okay.
Okay, so 4 vendors, I'll just read them off real quick. Arcadia Music Group, DC Creations, Craft, Crystal Moon, Craft, G's Brunch Truck, Tammy's Creative Creations with a Z, The Naughty Bohemian, Hill Watercraft, Alliance Properties, Realtor, SD Cool Glow, Tri-County Electric, My Credit Union, and Grace Point Church. Those are all the vendors so far. 1 food vendor. So
I'm sure
I
that
wonder
My
if one
Credit
of the
Union-
churches would do hot chocolate.
I think you have to be careful with
there's
COVID.
the health department was at National Night Out. It's necessary that they have all permits to do that.
My
And
Credit Union has
mostly,
permits, right?
You know, food trucks already have that.
Right.
But church-
Just My Credit Union, because you know they have their popcorn and they didn't get dinged or anything, because they usually bring something like that.
They usually do. I need to follow up on that. But I'm gonna resend the email and hopefully, I don't know, it's only a couple weeks later.
Yep.
We don't.
Well, I remember last year we talked about having hot chocolate given out by snow cone people,
Yes, and she did.
and she gave us a quote. It was like 50 cents a cup, and we could buy 300 cups or whatever the minimum was, just for the little 6 ounces. So I don't know if we want
The
to.
same snow cone that was at National Night.
Yeah, and they're in the. I mean, they live around the corner.
That would be great.
Whatever road that is. I don't know if y'all want to do that way. That way they have, they have a license because they have a snow cone company.
So you mean for us to pay for it? and-
Right. We'd have to pay for it. I don't know if we have any money left, but
Yeah, I think we have money left. We just only have short availability. I thought I had her number, but I don't.
does anyone think that's a good idea or not a good idea? Do we have hot chocolate? Paid for hot chocolate?
Is she then selling snow cones?
No, she just would provide the hot chocolate for the number of cups that we buy. Oh, no, mine's on. Erica, did you have anything about the snow cones? Not snow cones, hot chocolate from the snow cone people?
I move that we approve a budget to purchase 300 cups of hot chocolate at approximately 50 cents each from the snow cone vendor.
Sugar Rush.
Yeah.
Well, and
the
that
amount.
was a couple
don't
years
put the
back,
amount.
so it may be $1. I mean, I don't know. I
Right.
just,
Why don't we say $400 then, if we have it? Up to $400 for
worth of
hot chocolate.
This is Cindy.
Anyone second that?
This is Cindy. I second the motion.
All in favor? All approved? All right. Okay. And I'll see if I can grab some volunteers, and that's it, right? We're good? Awesome. No, because when I tried other people, they were $3 a cup. Are we selling t-shirts? Do we need someone to man the t-shirt table? Okay. So who can attend the event? Right. But I mean, if you're bringing your kids, can you sit at the table for an hour to sell shirts is the question. Okay. It's like mine, I can make them sell the shirts and it works out. I know, cute babies are, Derek, you coming or you out? We have Barbara, Cindy, maybe Matt. No, we have Cindy. Oh, good, we have Cindy. Do we have Cindy? Okay, maybe Matt. Oh, Katrina. Okay, well, we'll figure it out. How's that? We've got Cindy. Okay. All right. So, okay. Anything for yoga?
I just want to say that participation is going up. We had 10 people the other night in one of the classes, and it's kind of evening off at between 6 and 8 almost all the time now. It's doing well. We have a Facebook area yoga page, so we're keeping people informed when we don't have yoga for meetings and whatever. And we've done it through the yoga group. It's called Haslett Area Yoga, and they have like 150 people looking at it. So anyway, one of the ladies that comes all the time is taking care of it. I just let her know what days we're having yoga. So doing well.
Tai Chi? Is there a Tai Chi page? Any other projects or ideas?
I have two things that I wanted to mention. First of all, Eric Crawford got with me from Heritage Baptist Church. They're working on having volunteers. Pardon me? Okay, they're working on having volunteer groups that are going to work throughout the year next year. And he talked to me about having a group of veterans actually doing the work at the memorial 3 or 4 times during the year next year. So if we can get some other churches to do the same thing, it would really be helpful. But he did commit to that. And then the other thing, I was talking to Chris about this when we were putting the flags out before. It would be fun to do a Haslett Volunteer Day. Maybe not next year, maybe the year after that. But if we just keep that in mind, where we solicit churches and schools and everybody else to come, like they have the big event. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that. The schools have that, but it would be fun to have an actual volunteer day for all of the Haslett residents and those people using the Haslett facility. We might look into doing something like that in the future.
Sounds great. Anything else?
I just have a question about CG. Was their contract renewed? you don't cross paths as often. And so was the revision to the reservation process, was that just, is that dead? Because now, like CG, I mean, CG rents that for the whole time for $50. Okay, so maybe that maybe something we can revisit maybe after the first of the year. Okay. No, I understand. I just think it's something that as we're growing and our park is becoming more popular that we need to address.
Okay. Anything else? Project ideas? Anything we need to know about Nance or Firehouse? The gate's working out. The entrance gate. Gamble community. Those renovations already. Perfect. And then Veterans Memorial Garden. We've got our group that can maybe help with that. So, anything more specific we should discuss on that, Katrina? Okay. Yes, thank you. All right, so our next park board meeting will be December the 8th, and I will see a few of you maybe on December the 4th. If anyone would like to take a flyer to pass out to your place of business or your friends, there's some here. And we will adjourn at 9:16.
This conference is no longer being recorded.